Andrew, congratulations on another successful development. I'm actually interested in your words. What makes this development unique from your perspective, and more importantly, how did that impact the feasibility moving forward?
Okay. Well, look, 5 Murray Rose, it's a 6 Green Star building, design and as-built. So in itself, that kind of sets it apart because it's a speculative development. So we didn't have a tenant to start with, and it's suburban. So even doing those developments is a bit of an effort in itself, let alone with 6 Green Star. So it does have a defining feature in its solar, which you see on the video, and we do talk about that a lot. It's a 130 kilowatt system, so it's a big system. It was designed to provide for that 25% reduction in peak load, which was sort of defined by the Green Building Council. And at the time, there's a bit of a story as to how we got there, but at the time, the only comparable solar installation we could find was down in the Docklands on the ANZ building, 80,000 square metre building. So you're kind of comparing it to that. So we were achieving, we set out for a 25% reduction. I think, the ANZ building would have been less than 5% in a suburban, speculative development. That's really our key defining feature.
With the benefit of hindsight, would you look to try and achieve some of the Green Star points another way? Were some of them quite difficult?
I didn't think there was many left to get. Look, to be honest, we did go pretty hard to get 6 Green Stars, so that we didn't really leave too many stones unturned. Lucky for us, we've got our next development underway out there, so we're halfway through that at the moment. And, we've tweaked things, right? So our 5 Murray Rose development was version 2 of the Green Star. Now it's obviously version 3. So there's some tweaks already, so we're keeping pace with that. There's some new sort of guidelines around how you get your credits, and we're running with that. So when we look back, and we've talked about it a few times, I don't think there's that much that we could have done differently. I will say this though, when you're doing a spec development and clearly you don't have a tenant, so you've got to make it as flexible as possible. And for 5 Murray Rose, we did a chill beam system for our mechanical. Now, when Line came in, whilst they embraced the whole sustainability 100%, they've got a completely funky fit out with a bar and a gym, and looks like a great place to work to me, and great breakout spaces. So they took a lot of the perforated metal ceiling tiles out, and then the chill beams, and they had to retrofit other mechanical solutions. So we learned from that, and in 3 Murray Rose, where we still got the same aspirations for all of the sustainability outcomes, but it just made more sense to do a low temp VAV mechanical solution, and that makes it a lot more flexible for an incoming tenant. So there's tweaks like that, and that's probably the main one. Yeah.
So then you would have had to make some of those other points work a bit harder.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The Green Building Council had never recognised photovoltaics in their assessment process. How did you manage the risk of that in your development stage?
So we, in the brief, we set out that, sorry, it's a bit of going back a little bit further, but we set out that we wanted a 6 Green Star outcome. And we didn't actually say how we would get there. We defined a lot of it. We didn't say how we'd get there. So we were talking cogeneration and everything that kind of made sense to people and people could grab hold of. And we moved through the development and we came up with the solar idea. And one of the first things that we did, through the assistance of Lend-Lease, who played a really critical part in this whole equation, we went and saw the Green Building Council and we said, look, we're thinking about doing something different. And of course, they're supportive of these sort of initiatives. And so we got an in-principle agreement that this would be a good approach to take. We went away, we did all the modelling, we did analysis, more than what you would normally do, I suppose, for something new like this. And then we took it back to the Green Building Council. So there was a really early engagement. I heard some of the other guys speak about it as well, but that's key to these things working. So they were on the journey all the way through, and then when we finally submitted that as for our accreditation, they were on board. They knew what we were doing and supported it, and so that made it easy. I don't think it would have, it still would have worked, but it would have been a lot more challenging if we hadn't have brought them along the journey with us.
Andrew, we've got a question from the audience. How did the business case stack up for the solar, and do you have a payback period based on the energy savings?
Yeah, okay. So we did a lot of analysis on that, as you would imagine. We deliver these developments to hold, so that's GPT's strategy. So we're all about doing, highly sustainable buildings that are well future-proofed. For the long term, as we're going to maintain and own them. We did an analysis that showed a payback of less than 15 years. I'm going to say 13 years because that's what it was. So for us, that worked. It's a solution that everyone bought into. The development feasibility on its own, it's always difficult to talk about this. We paid, you pay a little bit extra for the solar, right? But when you're doing a spec development and you've got a lot of inputs, right? It's complex when you're doing a feasibility. If you get in there at the right stage and you can make that work and still get the returns that you're after and you're future-proofing the building, it's just the right thing to do. And so for us, we secured Line as a tenant, which is a great outcome, but prior to PC. So fully leased building on the back of the sustainability credentials, which was giving us returns that were actually better than what we, started out, with our conservative expectations. So yeah, it stacked up, and it's going to protect the GPT, whilst holding this building.
You set a pretty high benchmark from an innovation perspective, as you were saying. I mean, where to next in terms of setting that benchmark, and have you taken any cues from not just national examples, but international examples?
Yeah, okay. Where to next? Well, like I said, we're in the middle of our next building, which was kind of on the back of 5 Murray Rose, and this is my view. I think we're personally in a little bit of consolidation mode with our solar sort of project that we undertook with 5 Murray Rose, so we're learning a lot from that, and I'll sort of diverse a little bit, but the CSIRO have also joined forces, and they're doing a lot of research on 5 Murray Rose as well, in purely to understand better how solar operates in a working environment, because there's a lot of testing that happens out there with solar, but it's mainly lab testing. So they've gone, well, for commercial building that's operating, we want to see how it works. So everyone's like watching this building and seeing how it performs. We've already tweaked that a little bit for 3 Murray Rose and the solar that we're going to be putting on 3 Murray Rose, which is a great advancement. Where to next? I'll just say my view. I think there's probably more work to be done here, and it'll get better and better, and panels will become more efficient and it'll become more accessible. But I hear a bit of talk about, construction methodology and how, there's some pretty good ideas out there, and I know people are building timber structures, and, so I've got an eye on that, and I know that, GPT is sort of encouraging looking at those sort of innovations, and I think there's really something in that. That's where I think maybe the next tranche will come from.